Welcome back to another round of Bases Picks. Now it looks like there's a little bit of bad news today, as Michaela Mayer and Christina Linadatu did not weigh in for their co-main event bout on the undercard of Joyce versus Zhang. The rumors are that Christina has failed her UCAD or BBBOC medical, British medical, so is not able to partake in the bout. At this stage, there's no guarantee of whether or not that fight is happening or not, but I guess in one sense that makes this video a little bit easier for me, because there was only this card to really focus on this week. I checked across the states and other areas, there wasn't really anything else to talk about. So yeah, I will primarily just be speaking about the main event and how I see that going. Now, just before that, I want to give obviously my little prediction on Denzel Bentley versus Kieran Smith. Kieran Smith moving up in weight from 154 to 160. He was stopped by Troy Williamson at 154, so maybe the additional 6 pounds might do him better in terms of punch resistance, but I don't think Troy Williamson is on the level of Denzel Bentley when it comes to punching power. So realistically, I am expecting Denzel to win this fight within 7 rounds. So that's going to be my prediction. Yeah, I guess within rounds 4 to 7, Denzel Bentley KO victory for the British middleweight title. Okay, so moving on to the main event. You've got Zhang and Joyce both coming off of what you might consider career best victories. So Joyce, his last victory was against Joseph Parker back in September 2022. I was there. It was a very good performance. If I'm actually being honest, I think his Daniel Dubois performance was probably a bit better, but we have to grade it, I guess, on the level of competition. And yeah, Joseph Parker was definitely the best opponent he had been in the ring with, so maybe that made it all the more better. And the fact he stopped him, knocked him out devastating fashion in the 11th round, really set the division on notice and made a statement. You got Zhang on the other hand, who, while he lost his last fight, everyone or the majority of people believe he won, facing Filip Hrgović, who was known as the boogeyman of the division. About 8 different people passed up the chance to have a final eliminator with him for the IBF title, and that happened on 2 separate occasions until it went to Zhang's name, and he said, why are you lot scared of this guy? I'm gonna get this work. And he took that work and he showed up and showed out. Now, the conditions weren't great because it was in the Middle East, in the middle of summer. The canvas was drenched, it was slippery, it wasn't, probably giving each person their best opportunity to really strive in that fight. But Zhang showed you that while he may not have the greatest of gas tanks, or at least visibly to us, he can take a shot. Even in the Jerry Forrest fight, when he was basically dying of near kidney failure in the ring, he refused to quit, he refused to give up. He spoiled a bit, held a bit, but he was getting hit, getting lit up, never went down. Yeah, just sort of toughed it out and survived. So he's got will, he's got heart, and he's definitely got a chin that can take a shot. Same as you can say for Joyce. Now, if we look at this fight in particular, actually, before we even get to that, I had a dream about this fight about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It was a crazy dream, actually. Now, I'm just going to put it here because I don't know if it's going to play into what I see happening in the fight now. But yeah, ultimately in the dream, Joyce got knocked down in the 2nd round and he got knocked down in the 4th. And then he came back and sort of rallied back and managed to sort of go the distance in the fight. But in the dream, there was no scorecards read out. So I don't know exactly what kind of happened and whether or not he was winning the rest of those rounds. I just remember that specific part of the dream. I think there was a time, middle to late rounds, where he wobbled Zhang as well. So I guess I say that to say I wonder if that could be, they talk about premonitions and, maybe deja vu events. I will be at the arena. So we'll see if what I saw in the dream comes true. But going back to how ultimately I see this fight playing out. Now, it's not often where people will visibly look and say that Joe Joyce is the faster guy in the ring. But he came in at 256 pounds for this fight, and Zhang came in at 278. So Joyce is definitely looking like he's got a bit of speed on his mind, a bit of a movement to be sort of on his, maybe not on his toes, but just to be able to move a lot more comfortably throughout the rounds, and to be able to pace himself a lot better. So that also maybe tells me is that he's not looking to necessarily stay up close too often. He's going to look to sort of maybe fight from the outside a bit more, hit and move, not really engage up close. Now, I've always said, and I think a lot of people use the fact that Joe Joyce he's got very cumbersome and plodding combinations, but I've always said his jab is actually very quick. It's a lot quicker than people think, and the jab basically always hits the target. It always gets to where it needs to go, and it's always there before someone's able to block it. But it's just not rapid. But it's when he starts trying to do combinations like 2, 3, 4 punch combinations, that's when he looks slow, because the rotation from pushing that jab out to then swinging onto the right side and then swinging back, there's just a lot of additional rotation in his shots, making it a lot sort of a lot slower and longer in transition. But he's always had very quick feet. I've always said he's actually very fleet-footed for a guy his size. He always manages to get into position and get into range before people have a chance to sort of get out of range and sort of be able to find the exits. He's very good at cutting off exits, and he's very good at cutting off the ring and not leaving you with much real estate to move into. So that is obviously where his benefits is going to be in, is to maybe use high work rate, sort of stay far enough on the outside to not take too many unnecessary chances, but be close enough that he can use his slight reach advantage. I think he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, so to be able to use that reach advantage to sort of land on Zhang and not allow him to basically be able to fire back. Now, the opposite is correct with Zhang. He doesn't have the fastest of feet, but he also knows fairly well how to cut the ring off. He likes to fight coming forward. He very rarely takes backward steps, but his hands are quite quick. He throws not very fast combinations, but he throws fast combinations for a guy his size and for the type of people that he's fighting, which is there basically to overwhelm them. He's got a very good uppercut. He's got a very good left hook, and he's got a very good right hook as well. And he targets the body quite well, which I think is going to be one of his game plans for this fight. He's going to try to target the body quite a bit for Joe Joyce, because everyone says, basically the head follows the body. If you can't break them down to the head, you break them down to the body. Joe Joyce is the only time he's visibly shown signs of being hurt in a fight as a pro was to the body from Brian Jennings. I think that Zhang is going to look to exploit that within this fight. However, I found out yesterday Howard Foster is going to be refereeing this fight. So now my particular method of how I thought this fight was going to go, I have to almost rethink it, because I do not trust that man to not do something stupid and jump in unnecessarily at a moment where maybe someone is in a bit of a crisis, or is being on top, and that person more than likely would be Zhang, sort of taking a a barrage or a sustained attack from Joyce at one period of time, covering up, maybe not being able to fire back at that moment, trying to pick his spots. So the way I see this fight going, I see it starting off at a pace whereby Joe Joyce is going to look to move. He's going to look to hit and move, look to land that jab. He's going to look to aim it up top, because I don't think he's going to risk trying to stab to the body, knowing that Zhang is actually good at punching down. He does very well against smaller opponents. So if Joyce gives up his height and is reach to sort of target Zhang's body without being defensive, I think he can get caught, especially from that southpaw stance. So I think he's going to target a lot of his stuff to the head. I think he's going to be pushing out double and triple jabs just to keep Zhang's arms occupied, so that he's not looking at firing back, because Zhang isn't really a counter puncher. He's a guy that sort of likes to disguise shots. So I can see it going from the outside. I can see there being moments where maybe he goes to almost like the way he fought Daniel Dubois, literally the jab all night, very rarely using the right hand unless he's like really up and close. And I can see Zhang basically looking for those openings. I can see him trying to invest to Joyce's body to see if he can slow down his legs, especially now that Joyce is about 20 pounds lighter than he is going to be for the bout. I do actually see Zhang landing on Joyce within the first 4 rounds significantly, more than once. And I'm actually gonna predict that Joyce may get wobbled or may actually touch the canvas within sort of the first 4 to 5 rounds. At least once. That's not guaranteed, obviously, and this isn't about whether he's got a good chin or not. I think that Zhang just may be able to catch him in between shots at one point, which just knocks him off balance and maybe puts him down to the canvas. I do see Joyce rallying back throughout sort of the mid to late rounds, when Zhang typically sort of slows up and tries to sort of conserve his energy for just big bursts. And at that point will be sort of where I think Joyce is going to start to employ the backhand a bit more, but he's going to stay on that jab. He's going to stay in Zhang's face, not allow him a moment to breathe, not give him any opportunities to, you know, to sort of try and set up his own flurries, and just basically be on top of him, smother him, and just stop him from being able to initiate his own work. I don't know if he's going to really look to go into the clinches though, because I think Zhang is actually he looks physically strong outside of the extra 20 pounds that he's got on top, so that may just wear Joyce out more than he needs it to. So I think he'll stay more towards the outside, but he'll just constantly be working, constantly be throwing. And based on now who the referee is, I can see a scenario where between rounds 10 and 12, Zhang maybe gasses out, needs a break. Joyce sort of steps in behind maybe a double jab, throws a couple of hooks into Zhang. He's trying to cover up. He maybe digs to the body, sort of gets on top of him, smothers more, that maybe even steps back and throws a overhand right, sort of maybe clipping Zhang towards the back of the head. Zhang might complain a bit. Joyce comes back in maybe with a left hook or a straight right, and I can see the referee jumping in to call the fight off. So it wasn't, I initially predicted yesterday that I thought this fight would be going the distance, as I trusted both guys' chins. However, with Howard Foster in the ring, I have to assume now that a TKO victory for Joyce between rounds 10 to 12 is the most likely scenario. Yeah, so put your comments down below, let me know what you think, and we'll see who's right, who's wrong. I will be there. I'll take some footage and I'll put it up on the Sunday show when it's time for the weekend wrap. But with that being said, thank you guys very much for listening. Hope I haven't bored you. Let me know what your predictions are. Like and subscribe as always, and that's Basis Picks. Locked.